Okay, now it started. Yeah, so what I was telling is like the difference between library and a framework, right? So as I told you, library is a basically uh, the thing where the driving factor is up to us, right? So we drive the library however we want and wherever we want, whatever things we want to do with that library, we basically use the APIs or functions from that library, right? So if you want to create a simple website and if you want to get a particular element from the DOM, a particular element from the HTML, okay, we basically use those functions. Okay, so if you are using jQuery, we use that dollar symbol and then in round brackets we specify the ID or class name. We basically get the element from that. Okay, so that's how we basically use the library, and it's up to us how we want to use the functions or APIs defined by that library. Okay, but in case of framework like Angular, okay, which has its own directive structure, which has its own uh, architecture, right? So if you want to create a component, if you want to create a service, okay, you need to create a component with that annotation. Then you'll have to create a class. Okay, you have to add some CSS, HTML, or some properties into that class. And then if you want to make that class as a component, then you'll have to add at the rate component decorator. Then that component will basically, that class will basically become a component. So this type of things, the Angular will basically like framework is enforcing you to do such kind of thing, right? So it is basically the driving factor. Okay. So in the case of framework, framework is a driving thing. Okay. So that's how I tell students like so that's how the difference between the library and framework is. Okay. And yeah, so that's it about framework and library. So as we know that Angular is a framework, so what are things we are going to learn in Angular? So I'm sharing my screen. Just let me know when you can see it. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, good. Now what Angular is? What is Angular? Angular, as I told you, it's a JavaScript framework. Okay, it is used for building client-side applications. Okay, first of all, understand that Angular is used for client-side applications. Okay, because why I'm telling you, because most of the students ask me this question like, sir, I want to connect with, I connect my Angular application to the database. How will you connect the front-end application, client-side application to the database? Okay, that's not possible. Okay, why is not possible? Because we cannot trust client, because client can be anything like a client is accessing your website from mobile. It can he can access your application from browser. If you have a, front end application like mobile application, Android, iPhone application, you cannot trust client, right? Client can do anything. And if you are connecting database directly to a client, then obviously client can do anything from your front end, right? Because why I'm telling you, because when you see Angular, any website application, okay, website, if you open a browser, if you run any browser based application, you can obviously inspect it, right click your browser and do inspect, and you can find your code there. Okay, because all the code is JavaScript code, HTML, CSS code is basically visible to everyone. Okay, although there are techniques to make it unreadable, but that doesn't make your code hide. That doesn't hide your code, right? So you cannot trust client anytime. Okay. So that's why you need a middleware. Okay. That middleware is nothing but your server. Okay. So you communicate with the server communicate with the database. Okay. And that whatever the values you want, the server will give you those values. Okay. And server has all the security, because server's control is up to us, right? So we can control what are the security measures we want to add, which client is asking for the details and what details he needs. Okay, whether the client is authenticated or not, whether it is authorized or not. Okay, so whether the data which is coming is sanitized or not. Okay, so these are all things we can do it in server side, we cannot do it in a client side. Okay, that's why you cannot directly connect to a database. Even some people say that Firebase, I can connect to a Firebase database, I can connect directly to an Angular database. Angular application or any front-end application. Yeah, that's possible. But Firebase database, you directly don't get an access to database. There is a server, Firebase server is running in between. You are calling a database from your front-end application, but the server is basically standing in between you, right? In your front-end application and the database. Okay, so you need a server. Without server, you cannot directly connect to a database. Okay, so that's the reason Angular is clients used for client-side application. It's not used for back-end application. Back-end application, if you want to create it, you have a other technologies, right? Like Python, you can use Django framework, Flask framework there. If you are using PHP, you have a YWF framework, you have a Laravel framework. If you're using Java, you have a Spring Boot, J2EE. If you're using .NET, you have a ASP.NET. Okay, if you, like there are like if you're using Node.js, and there are Express framework, Next.js framework. There are a lot of frameworks are there. Okay, a lot of backend technologies are available for us on the server side. Okay, so to create so understand this, like Angular is only used to create a client side application. Okay, not backend side application, a server side application. Okay, yeah. And obviously, if you have a front end application, then there is a obvious thing is that you will be running application on browser. Okay, so browser only understands HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Apart from this, browser doesn't understand any language. Okay, although we will be doing Angular application in TypeScript, we will be doing a lot of code, a lot of things in the TypeScript, but browser doesn't understand TypeScript. It only understands JavaScript. Then how are we going to run our application if you're writing in a TypeScript? Then how our application is going to run on a browser? Basically, there is a compiler, or you can say transpiler. When you convert your code from one language to another language, it is called as transpilation. When you run your code from higher level language to lower level language, we call it as a compilation, right? Right. So if you convert your Java code to a Java bytecode or a machine level code, it is called as compilation. But when you convert code from one language to another language, this is called as transpilation. Okay, one higher level language to another higher level language. This is called as transpilation. Okay, so now TypeScript has a transpiler for it. Okay, TypeScript compiler we call it as. So that basically converts your TypeScript code to equivalent JavaScript code. Okay, and that JavaScript code we run it on a browser. So we don't need to do anything for that. TypeScript handles or Angular handles that things in the background for us. Okay, so we just have to write a code in TypeScript. Rest all things will be taken care by Angular itself. Okay. Now, why Angular? Yeah. Any questions?
Yes, sir. What is the difference between React and Angular?
Okay. React, as I told you, React is a library and Angular is a framework. Okay. So when you use React, so in the React, it is obviously React uses JavaScript like uh, in the background. Okay. And also it has a separate library called as JSX. Okay. So we use JSX to components. Okay, so we can use TypeScript there as well. Okay, so if you are using TypeScript, again you'll need a build system which will convert your TypeScript code to a JavaScript code. Okay, but React is a library. Now what is library? As I told you, library, you will get those functions, you will get those components. Okay, or inbuilt components from React itself. So you can use those inbuilt components to create uh, your own components as well. Okay, when you go to React, you can just create a component using function, or you can create a component using if you're using TypeScript, you can create a component using class. Okay? So it's like we are creating a function, or we are creating an API using React's own library. We cannot write a structure. Okay, like if you want to write a business logic into a controller or a service, and then you want to create a view on a separate HTML file, that's not possible in React. Okay, you write all the code inside a TSX files, TSX files itself. So all the code, like HTML code along with your JavaScript code, is written inside one file itself. Okay. Although there are like frameworks for React as well, Like there is a Next.js framework which can be used to uh, mm, like to
ते
separate out all of
माझं
these
हे
things, like
56
separate
पर्यंत
views,
जायचं होतं ते
out
केलंय.
component logic. Okay, so that we can do it in React, but the React is a library and Angular is a framework. Okay, so that's the basic difference between it. Got it, Sagar, right?
Okay. Yeah, friends.
Okay. So now why uh सिका ये चालू है क्या? प्रणवती.
येते का?
हा, ह्याचं तू काय बोलते का आवाज? हॅलो.
तिचा
सॉरी
अनम्यूट
सर.
झालाय चुकून.
मी
अनम्यूट
म्यूट
झालाय कॉल.
म्यूट केला. ठीक आहे. Okay. So now why Angular? Okay. Now Angular, so as I told you, Angular is a framework, right? And React is a library. Now, if you if you are creating any application, if let's say if you want to create a dynamic application in JavaScript, plain JavaScript, okay, and let's say you want to create a list from a array of objects. Okay, you have an array of students, and you want to show those students in a list format or in a cards format. So you'll have a multiple cards or multiple list items, right? So if you want to do this in a plain JavaScript, so what you will do, you will do a for loop on your array of objects. Then you will create a string, and in that string you will append all of those items, like li items or cards item, div items. Okay. Then you will add the data to it, and then after this string is appended with all those items, you will just append that string to the UL element, which is basically placed on your HTML, right? So these are all things you need to do when you are using JavaScript, plain JavaScript. Okay, but Angular gives you the expressive HTML. Expressive HTML means what? It's like it gives you template engine. Template engine means what? Ki, uh, see, uh, it gives you a skeleton. You create a skeleton, and on that skeleton you basically apply a data, and you will see the view. Okay, so let's say a human body. Okay, human body has a, everyone has a same type of skeleton, right? Everyone has the same type of bone structure, same type of skeleton. But when you apply a skin to it, then everyone looks different, right? So skeleton is nothing but a template for template. And when you apply a data to it, okay, the skin or the other things that you apply, then that skeleton will take a shape, okay, or it will look like a different thing, okay, but the internal structure will remain same. So that's what the template is. So template engines, there are like a lot of template engines available in JavaScript, like EJS engine is there, EJS template engine, handlebars. Okay, a lot of template engines are available, but Angular has inbuilt template engine. Okay, that means Angular provides you inbuilt templates. You can create your template by using Angular's expressive HTML, where you can create if you want to hide something. Let's say we use if statement, right? In programming language, in JavaScript and all, we use if statement. But in HTML, we don't have if statement, right? HTML is a plain markup language. It's a static language. We don't have anything into it dynamic. Okay. So if you want to hide something based on some condition, okay, we can do that in HTML itself. We don't have to go to JavaScript to do that. Okay. In HTML itself, we can hide it using if condition. If you want to loop through an array, you can do that in HTML itself. Okay, that's what we call it as a expressive HTML. Okay, that means we have a dynamic HTML. Okay, so that's one thing. Second is like powerful data binding. Okay, now data binding is the most important part in Angular. Okay, it's not in Angular as well, but it is in React or any other libraries as well. The what is data binding? So when you create a variable or any methods inside a JavaScript file or TypeScript file, okay, you want to show those variables values into an HTML, right? So if you want to use a JavaScript, what do? You will just add a ID to that particular div, and then you get that element using that ID, and then you add a text to that element ID, right? That you need to do this in a JavaScript, right? Whereas when you come to Angular, since I told you it's an already expressive HTML, for variable that you have created, you just have to place that variable into HTML using some syntax, okay, and that variable will display the value of that like that variable's value from the JavaScript file. Okay, you don't need to write an ID to that div, then get that element using that ID, okay, and then add a text to that element. You don't have to do all of these things. Just create a variable, add that variable to a HTML file using some template expression or syntax, and then that value will be displayed over there. That's how easy it is. Okay, that is called as power data binding. Now there are various types of data bindings are there, like string interpolation is there, then one-way data binding, two-way data binding. In one-way by data binding also there are various things like property binding, then event binding. So all of these stuffs are there, and we are going to study all of these things. Okay, so and Angular data binding is very powerful, okay, because all other languages provides only one way data binding, but Angular provides you two-way data binding as well. Okay, that's the one extra feature in Angular. Okay, like React also provides one way data binding, but that's one way only, not two way. But Angular provides you one way as well as two way data binding. We'll see this. And then Angular is modular by design. Okay, as I told you, Angular is a framework. So every component or every module that you create, okay, all of these things are basically components can be grouped together to make a module. Okay, then these modules can be grouped together to create an application. Okay, so this is like atomic design pattern, we call it as. Atomic design patterns means what? In like when you come to chemistry, I don't know how many of you know about chemistry, but in chemistry we have a neutron, electron. These are the smallest things, right? So when you combine electron, proton, neutron, you basically create an atom, and when you combine multiple atoms, then there it makes a molecule. When you combine multiple molecules, it makes a organism. Okay, so likewise here also in Angular also the design pattern, or you can say design structure, is a atomic design. Okay, there you can consider simple button as a component. Okay, that button will have HTML, will have CSS, okay, will have its functions, events. Okay, these all things, like we can call them as a electron, proton kind of thing. Okay, then you combine all of this, then it will make that component, like button component. Okay, when you have multiple of these components like button, input box, then um, like checkbox, and you combine all of this, you create a form, right? So that form you can consider as a molecule, and you have a multiple forms or multiple div elements, multiple like nav bar, like left side bar, footer, header. When you combine all of these components, then that will make up your entire website or application. Okay, that's nothing but your organism. Okay, that is called as atomic design. Okay? And Angular uh, it has a modularity inbuilt into it. Okay, we will see that when you create a components and modules in the later chapters, and the like last 2 3 chapters you will see regarding to modules, and when we how we can separate out things using modules, and we can create a separate module out of it. Okay, here one more thing, modular by design means what? Whatever you create, okay, that can be reusable as well. Okay, so if you create a particular component, let's say you have created a autocomplete, like whenever I type, the drop down will appear based on whatever you type, search box, right? So that is an autocomplete thing. So that is an autocomplete component. That component, if you create once, that can be used anywhere. You can use it like in other applications as well. That is called as modular. One module has been created, and that module can be used anywhere as it is. Okay, you don't need to do anything. You don't need to change anything. Okay, that is called as modular by design. Okay. And next is like built-in backend integration. Okay. Now many of the systems, like if you go for React or Vue.js, they don't have built-in backend integration. The thing backend integration is what, like as I told you, Angular or React, these are like front-end technologies. But when you want to communicate with the backend system, right? So you need to call that backend API, right? So you'll have a APIs. So those APIs you need to call it. So how do you call those APIs? So you need Ajax call, right? So you call those Ajax calls. So you need to install some library called like you can install. There are various libraries available, request libraries. Then uh, I don't remember all those libraries, but we have all those libraries available. Okay. Even nowadays there is a fetch function also, which basically handles this asynchronous task for us. Okay. But Angular has inbuilt backend integration. That means that Ajax call, asynchronous call that we call, that is already built into your Angular. Okay. You just call the function. Let's say we have an HTTP client module for that. If you use HTTP client dot get, and you just pass an URL, that URL will be called and the response will be uh, like will be taken given to you. Okay, whatever the response will come from the backend will be given to you. If you use http.post, the post method will call and the URL will be the API will be called and the response will be sent to you. Okay. So we have a inbuilt backend integration in Angular. Okay. Yeah, but there are like various other things that you need to understand about RxJS and all. So that's a separately a new topic for us. Okay, so I will take that topic and we will see that how what is RxJS and how we can use RxJS in Angular. So that's that we are going to see. So this is what Angular is and why should you use Angular, because it's all powerful features are there into Angular. Okay, which basically if you want to use in another library or another framework, you'll have to install third-party things for this. Okay, even routing also. So in Angular has inbuilt routing into it. Okay, but if you want to perform a routing in a React, you'll have to add a separate library for that. You'll have to add React router library for this. Okay, but Angular has inbuilt feature. Okay, so you will see that uh, you will hardly have to install a third-party library for most common things in Angular. Okay, so Angular will have like few dependencies. Yeah, but like if you want to have some design system or any other extra feature which is not available in Angular, you'll have to add that dependency or library into Angular. Okay, but in React or any Vue.js or any other libraries, obviously they provide you minimal things for you. Okay, whatever things that will be required, minimal things, they will provide it. But yeah, you will, if you need extra features like routing feature, if you need a backend integration feature, you will have to add those library externally into your React. Okay, yeah, that's the basic difference, or that's why we should use Angular, and that's why that is the reason Angular is used in enterprise level applications. Okay, because it has all the features built into it. It is already a modular by design. Okay, and large amount of or employee, you can say large amount of team members can work on the same project itself. Okay, because they can work separately on a separate feature or separate module in a single project itself. Okay, that's why Angular is preferred in enterprise level applications. Okay, whereas React is not much preferred in enterprise. Yeah, but it is preferred in the small scale website or mid scale website. Okay, because it is easier to learn and development is faster in React. Okay, and obviously its learning curve is like fast. Okay, in React, whereas Angular has a steep learning curve. You will have to learn it step by step. Okay, so that's what why Angular is. Okay, and obviously there are some few features also, like Angular has a detailed documentation because it's a backed by Google. So Google's documentation, if you see, like they have various other products as well. If you see Google's documentation, it's like they have a detailed documentation for their product. Okay, even for Angular as well, The documentation is so much in detail that you hardly have to go and see into other blogs or things. Okay, but yeah, it's not like structured or step by step. Every feature is implemented. Every feature, every things are there in the documentation. But you will have to understand the documentation. I will tell you. I will show you how to look into the documentation. And obviously supported by Google. It has a component based architecture. So as I told you, everything in the Angular is component based. Okay. So even if you are creating your own button, that button is also a component. Okay. Even if you are creating, let's say, a gallery, that gallery is a component. Inside that, if you have a card, that card is a component. So everything in the Angular is a component based. Okay. AOT compiler, this was like not now, but it was there in the previous versions. Right now, the AOT compiler is removed from Angular. Currently, we have a JIT compiler. Sorry, AOT compiler. JIT is removed. Sorry, JIT is removed. JIT is nothing but just in time. AOT is ahead of time compiler. Okay. So as I told you, when you are creating an Angular application, they will be creating or writing a program in TypeScript. Okay, but the TypeScript program ultimately should convert to a JavaScript code, right? So when you use GIT is just in time compiler. So just in time means what? So as soon as your application runs in the browser, that time only the TypeScript code is converted to a JavaScript code. Now, if you see, this is like a slower thing, right? So the code will load slowly because you'll have to convert or compile that code to a JavaScript code, okay? And it will obviously increase the response time, right? So AOT means what? Ahead of time means before sending the code to a browser, I am compiling it already, okay? I'm compiling it on the server itself, and then that compiled code I'm just sending it to the browser. Okay, that will be much faster. Okay, and your response time will basically increase. Okay. So that's AOT compiler, and Angular has inbuilt AOT compiler. So on development, production, everywhere you will use the AOT is by default. JIT is removed. Okay. It has a great CLI support. CLI means like command line interface. So command line interface is like is great in Angular. Okay, at the end of the course, I will tell you, or I will create I will give you the project demonstration. Okay, where I will just using this CLI, I can create the entire application, Angular application. Okay, I will create a lot of components, a lot of modules just using CLI. I don't have to write a single line of code. Okay, so I'll tell you at that time how to create an entire application using this CLI. Angular elements is nothing but a nowadays web in HTML5 they have introduced web elements kind of thing. So web elements are nothing but the elements you can create in any other library or any other framework. Those elements can be used directly in the HTML itself, right? That means, let's say I will give you an example. So if you have an HTML, if you're writing an HTML code, okay, you know there are some basic predefined tags, right? HTML body, h1, button. These are predefined tags. But what if you use a student tag? Now HTML doesn't have this inbuilt student tag, right? So this student tag, if you want to have some specific uh, uh, behavior to that student tag. Okay, so if I use student tag, then it will show the ID, its roll number, its name, all of these things it will show. So if you want to and also it will have some styling also. So if you want to do this, you can create this component in Angular, and then you can directly use this component directly into HTML. Okay, even without Angular as well. So that type of Angular elements we can create in Angular, and those elements can directly be used in the another website or another project which is not Angular based. There also you can use this Angular. Okay, like I have created a student component or student tag, and that tag can be used in another project which doesn't have Angular. Okay, so that is possible in Angular using Angular elements. Now IV renderer is a renderer basically. It's introduced from Angular 9. That time it was in beta version, but Angular I guess in 12 it was got ready, and from Angular 12 onwards, it is by default IB renderer. Okay, IB renderer is a will make your build smaller. It will reduce a lot of unnecessary code which is not used. Okay, so and also it will reduce the size of your bundle. Okay, so these all things are there in the IB renderer. You don't need to go deep into that. It's just a renderer thing. You can understand. Okay. Angular material support is there. Like material is a library for design systems. So at the end, as I told you, I will be giving a project demonstration. At that time, I will also uh, tell you how to use Angular material in your application. Angular can be used for developing mobile or hybrid apps. Okay, there is a framework called as Ionic framework, which uses which by using that Ionic framework, we can create mobile applications. So mobile applications can be created using Angular. Okay, and Ionic supports Angular, React, and Vue.js. So you can create mobile apps, you can create hybrid apps. Okay, you can create an Angular application, browser-based application, and you can make it a desktop-based application using another library called as Electron.js. Okay, using that you can create a desktop-based application as well. You're just creating a browser application, and you can convert that browser application to a desktop-based application using Angular. Okay, the best example for this is like VS Code. If you guys have used VS Code is actually a browser-based application, but that application has been converted to a desktop using Electron.js. Electron.js is a library which converts your browser-based application into a desktop-based application. Okay, but that is not made into Angular. It's into Node.js and all. Okay. PWS, like progressive web apps. Progressive web apps is like um, it's like these are used in um, mobile applications. Okay, so if you see when you create a mobile application, you can create a mobile application in Android. Okay, if you are developing on Android, but on some website you might see add a shortcut to the to your system, right? Add a shortcut for this. Okay, you might have seen that strip onto your bottom of your page when you visit a particular website on your mobile Chrome browser. Okay, so if you add that shortcut, the shortcut will be created on your mobile. Okay, and if you click on that shortcut, your website will open as an application over there. Okay, if you want to test this out now, you can go to angular.io site and go to the documentation of that site. There you will find the strip at the bottom. You will see the screenshot, add a shortcut. Just click on add. The shortcut will be added onto your browser and on your system, and you can go and click on the shortcut. The entire website will open as an application, Android application in your Angular, in a web app. That is basically progressive web app. Okay, so it's like offline web applications you can create. Okay, so that's mm, those all features of Angular. So what are things you can do with Angular? Okay, so any questions till now? Any things or any doubts you have till now? Is it clear? Hmm? मैं कुछ बोर हो गया थोड़ा. क्लियर है? ओके. सी थोड़ा फर्स्ट एक दो लेक्चर थोड़ा आपको थोड़ा सुनना पड़ेगा मेरा बड़बड़, क्योंकि थोड़ा सा थेरोटिकल जाएगा स्टार्टिंग में, बट नेक्स्ट लेक्चर ऑनवर्ड्स लाइक प्रैक्टिकल में ही घुसेंगे, सो दैट टाइम आपको प्रैक्टिकली बहुत. बट फर्स्ट हम लोग को अंडरस्टैंड करना पड़ेगा कि व्हाट इज एंगुलर एंड व्हाट ऑल थिंग्स, what is there in Angular. Okay. So I'll just quickly wrap up all these things. Okay, like what is the anatomy of Angular and all this. Okay, and then I will show you what all things we are going to do in Angular course. Okay, so anatomy of an Angular application means what? Like your Angular application will contain what all things. Okay. So first of all, your application will contain components. There will be a lot of components will be there. It will have services. Services are used to communicate between your backend and front end, and also to share data between multiple components. Okay. The component is, you can say, as I told you, it's the smallest component. Like button can be considered as a component. Okay. So you can create your own custom button as well. That's totally fine. Okay. And also there will be modules as well in your Angular application. Now component, what is component? Component basically consists of template, class file. Class file will consist of properties and method plus metadata. A template basically consists of HTML and CSS. Class file is your TypeScript file. Metadata is nothing but now mm, when I create a class, okay, and I create a HTML CSS file. Now, how can I combine all of these things to make a component? Okay, this to combine all of these things, we provide a metadata for it. Right? So metadata is nothing but providing those details on configuration or configuration things to make up that component. Okay? So if you are creating a component, let's say header component. So header component will have a header.html file, header.css file, and header TypeScript file. Now, just by naming header, it will not combine anything, right? Because I can name anything for a CSS file, for a HTML file, for a TypeScript file as well. But if you want to combine them or uh, use them together, okay, then we need to specify them in a single metadata. So that metadata we provided here, okay, in the metadata. So metadata, in the metadata we provide what HTML file will be there, what CSS file will be there, what TypeScript file will be there. So that metadata we provided over there. Also we can specify how we can access this component in HTML. Let's say a tag name, the tag name we can specify in a metadata as well. Okay. There are like a lot of things in the metadata. We will see into that. I'll cover that in the next lecture. Now, Angular modules. So, what are Angular modules? Angular modules basically in your entire application, there is always a one module which is called as root module. So when your Angular application starts, it basically starts with that root module. Okay, you can say that it's an entry point to your Angular application. So that through that root module, your Angular application will enter into your Angular world. Okay, and there every Angular module can have a lot of components. Okay, it can have other modules as well. So a root module will always be there, but there are like other modules can be there, and those modules can be integrated into your root module. Okay, those modules also can contain components, services, then directives, pipes. These all things will come later on. So all these things will be there. Okay, so these are modules. These are modules. Okay, Angular 14 may they have introduced a component without modules as well. Okay, but that is in beta version. So still we are using modules, components with modules itself. Okay, so components cannot be like standalone components. They can be with module itself. Okay. But yeah, later on in the future, like Angular 15 or 16, they may introduce standalone component. So component need not be in the module. Okay, they can be as a separate component. They cannot be a part of module. Okay. That may be there, but that is in future, not now. Okay, so don't consider that we have a standard component. Okay, that's still in beta. Yeah. The prerequisites that you need is basically HTML, CSS, JavaScript is required. Okay, so if you don't know anything of this, then I would recommend go and learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript first, then only come to Angular because it will become difficult for you to learn Angular. Okay, because Angular is totally a new word and it needs the knowledge of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay, what will be helpful for you? So it's like if you know OOPS concepts like C, C++, Java, C Sharp, so that is fine. That will be helpful. If you don't know, that's also fine. Okay, because we are going to learn that anyways. What is not required? You don't need any prior knowledge of Angular. Okay, you don't need any prior knowledge of TypeScript because we are going to learn TypeScript along with Angular. Okay, So you don't need to worry about the TypeScript itself. Okay, so that's the prerequisites. And yeah, JavaScript. Now, what is JavaScript or JavaScript like? क्या है basically? JavaScript basically has a language specification. Most of the time you will heard about ये Sigma script. कभी कभी आपने सुना होगा या फिर कभी आप सुनोगे इंडस्ट्री में जाके. तो ECMA script is what is ECMA script? So as you know, we have a lot of browsers in market, right? We have a Chrome, we have Mozilla Firefox, we have a Edge, Microsoft Edge. Okay, we have Opera. Like a lot of browsers are available in market. Okay? But all of these browsers basically work on HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now, HTML, CSS is like plain, like they have a everyone knows it. But JavaScript is like a dynamic language itself, right? HTML is a static, CSS is just for using styling, but JavaScript is dynamic language. Now, JavaScript will have a function. Okay, let's say there is an array. An array has a function called as filter function, map function. So this function, if I use in Chrome browser, if I use in Mozilla Firefox browser, if I use in Microsoft Edge browser, if I use in Opera, it should work same in all the browsers, right? So how they can basically ensure that this function will work on same on the say on like different browsers. Okay, so that specification should be mentioned somewhere. Like the filter function will accept this many parameters. This filter function will basically give you the say the array as output. Okay, this type of specification are defined by ECMAScript. Okay, ECMAScript is nothing but you can just say JavaScript language specification. Okay, so whatever the specifications are there are basically defined by this ECMAScript. Okay. Now, ECMAScript has a long history. When the JavaScript was invented around 1991, that from that time onwards, the ECMAScript is basically introduced. Later on, the ES3 was introduced around like 2008 or 7 something. Okay, so all the older browsers basically support ES3. Okay, later on ES5 was introduced. Okay, which is supported by all modern browsers. Okay, and currently all the browsers support ES6. Okay, ES6 तक के सारे features are supported by all the browsers. Okay, so after ES6, like from years ES6, the ECMAScript has changed its naming convention from ES3 1 2 3 5 to ES 2015 because it was introduced in 2015. So now later on it was like named as ES 2015, ES 2016, ES 2017, 2018, 2019, 2021, 2022, right? So currently ES 2021 तक सारे specifications are there, but 2022 is still in progress. Okay, so that's what the language specification is, and yeah, so all the browsers basically support till ES6. Okay, modern browser doesn't fully support ES6. Okay, there are some browsers like Opera or some older other browsers that still don't support ES6 fully. Okay, like let's say if I want to create a class, okay, class is supported by uh, all the browsers. Okay, but there are, in the class I can create properties, right? I can create variables. Those variables can be created in Chrome, but in also can be created in Firefox, but Safari doesn't allow this. You cannot create a variable in a class. Okay, yeah, you can create them through constructor. Through constructor you can create a variable of that class, but you cannot directly create a variable of that class. Okay, so this is like all the browser doesn't fully support yet. Okay? Yeah, but then how can you ensure that all the browser will the code that you have written will work on all these browsers? Okay, so this is where the TypeScript comes. Now you write a code in TypeScript. TypeScript give you all those features which are available newly into like ECMAScript specification, which browser doesn't support yet also. And you can write the code in that newly specification language. You can write the code in TypeScript, and TypeScript will take care of these things. Which browser you are working on, or which browser the code is loading, and which version of the ECMAScript you have to convert your code to. Okay, the TypeScript will take care of this thing. Okay, it will compile those code to to that JavaScript code, which can be uh, identified by or run by any other browser. Okay.
So, sir, TypeScript is convert ES6 to ES5 for that.
Yeah, it will convert to ES6 to ES5, or it can convert up to ES3 too as well. TypeScript will convert your code till ES3 as well. Okay. Hello. Now
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
yeah. So yeah, TypeScript, but and TypeScript, whatever you code write, it is actually you can write it till years 2020, 21, I guess. Okay, 2021, I don't know, but 2020 tak you can write whatever features or specifications are mentioned by ECMAScript. You can write those classes or functions in TypeScript. Okay, although they are not supported by all the browsers. Okay, but TypeScript will convert that code to that equivalent code, which can be understood by every browser. Okay, and yeah, now selecting a language, as I told you, ES5 runs in the browser, and no like ES5, because JavaScript runs in the browser, no compilation is required. So either you can use ES5, ES 2015. A lot of new features are there like classes, let, arrow functions, and all. But TypeScript, why TypeScript? Because it's a superset of JavaScript. So whatever JavaScript you are writing, you can write in TypeScript as well. But apart from that, you can write all other new features as well in TypeScript. Also, it has a strong typing. JavaScript inbuilt doesn't have a strong typing. It has a loosely type, because you cannot write a type to a JavaScript variable or function return type. But in TypeScript, you can write a type to a particular variable. Now, this type basically makes your code detectable or runtime. It will avoid runtime errors. Okay, means the code errors you can detect on a compile time itself. Okay, by using strong typing. And also, it has a great ID tooling. Means like in ID, whether you are using VS Code, WebStorm, any ID you are using, it has a great tooling support. That means if you have a error, or if you have a like if you are not using particular variable function in a proper way, it will give you error in the ID itself. You don't have to run your application to get the error. In the ID itself, you will get the error. Okay, that's what the meaning of ID tooling is. So that's why Angular chose TypeScript, okay, to write the Angular application. Okay, and
Okay, sir. Just wanted to ask you, TypeScript is a separate programming language which is based on OOPS concept, or
it's basically based on JavaScript itself, and it has like OOPS concepts as well, which is not there in the JavaScript. So you can, as I told you, it's a superset of JavaScript, right? So you can consider TypeScript code as a JavaScript code itself, okay? But with OOPS concept, you can say,
okay,
okay? And with data types, okay?
okay,
What is the TypeScript? So it's an open source language which is basically created by Microsoft. Okay, it's a superset of JavaScript. It transpiles your code to a plain JavaScript, which can be understood by any other browser, any existing browsers. It has a strongly typed language. It is a class-based object orientation. So OOPS concepts are there. So that's what this TypeScript is. Okay. So that is what the Angular, and what are things that we are going to learn in our Angular. Okay. Yeah. Apart from this, we are going to learn other features as well, like RxJS and all those things also we will learn. Okay. Now we'll see. Let's see what we are going to do in Angular, and what kind of thing we are going to do in Angular. Okay. In like rest of the courses or rest of the programming languages, you might see that you will go from start to end, and then you will learn topic by topic, and each and every topic will be taught differently, right? But in Angular, it's a framework. Okay, it's not a language. Okay, So framework why we use a framework to create an application, to create a project, right? So we are going to create a project from start to end, and in that project we will see how to use this Angular framework related things or framework topics in your Angular in your project itself. Okay, so we are going to start with a project, and we are at the till the end we are going to develop that project from like scratch to a particular level where that project can be used, and we will learn all the topics in that project itself. Okay, so yeah, so what the kind of project we are going to see. So I'll just show you the project that we are going to see. Um, just a minute. We are going to create one e-commerce based application, okay, where we will be using. So this is like a e-commerce based application where you will see the products, and it's the product listing page where product detail page will be there. Okay, and you will see yeah, so this is like the front end application, but at the end of the course where I will show you uh, how we can do login registration. Okay, then how we can prevent particular pages by if your user is not logged in. Okay, so all these things I will tell you at the end. Okay, but we will learn all those features here itself, right? So you will have a simple website like this. So you'll have home page, products page. Okay, here you can see all the products. Okay, here you can filter those products as well, like if I say Samsung, you can see Samsung, iPhone, okay, like this. And then for every product, you can see the I can highlight on that particular product. Then I can see the it is highlighting. So this is a custom directive that has been created, custom directive, and then we'll see the star rating here. How we can implement a star rating. Every product will have a star rating. Every thing will have a special formatting like this, so currency format and all this. Also, if you can see the toggle theme button over it, so you can toggle your application theme. You can also see the cart button here. If you click on this add to cart, so the cart button will increase the it in real time. Okay, and then if you click on any product, okay, you will see the product detail thing. You can move to other product. Okay, like this. So previous next product. Okay. You can also see the URLs changing products one specification. You can go to next page. You will see product two specification. I can go to reviews page. You will see the URL is changed to reviews. Okay. Also, I can go back to my products detail page, products listing page. And then again come back to the product detail page. In the reviews, you will see the form. Okay, there are like in Angular there are we can create a forms two ways. One is template driven form, reactive form. So this form is created using template driven approach. Okay, where I can do uh, mm, real time update into my form. Like if I say, if I, you can see as soon as I'm typing, the name is also getting typed over here. It's a real time data. This is called as data binding. So the data which I'm entering over here, it is binded to your a variable. Okay. Also, you can see the validation which is happening over here. So author is required. So if I enter anything, so author is there. But if I don't enter anything, you will immediately see an error, validation error over here. Similarly, email also. And you can see the submit button is disabled because all things are um, like required. So this field is required. So if I click on this, so there is a submit, the console log will be printed over there. And this is like a template driven form. Then we will have a profiles page, which will be reactive form. Okay, so here it's like entire forms data. Okay, here I can enter, and this will also have a you can see the name is required field. I can add a custom validation also, like forbidden. Bob name is forbidden, so that is a custom validation. Okay, you can see the validation messages are appearing over here. Even in the email itself, you can see this type of thing. Even with password as well. So if you are using a password and these two passwords doesn't match, so it will say cross-field validation. You can say you'll have a nested form like city address. This is like a nested form. You will have a form array. Okay, so you can say I can add multiple mobile numbers here, and also I can dynamically update the form details like change name and city. You see the city and name has been updated. So it's like a custom reactive form. So using reactive forms, you can create huge number of forms with huge forms. You can create complex forms. You can create a conditional based forms as well. Okay. So that's how things we are going to learn. And obviously the your routing and all those things. So obviously you can see if you go to product detail page and if you enter any route which is not valid, okay, you are going to get an alert. Okay, product ID is not valid and you will not be able to go to that page. Even if I enter any URL which is not existing, you will be showing 404 page not found. So this all stuff we are going to see, routing modules, okay, RxJS and all those stuff. Okay. So this is what the product project we are going to do. Also, obviously, at the end, I'm also going to show you how to do a login registration because for this we don't have any backend. Okay, for at the end, I will use some backend for the project. Okay, and I will tell you how to do a login and registration using that backend dummy backend project. Okay, and also that at that time I will also show you the how you can integrate your material design and all this. Okay. So got it everyone. So what we are going to do, and any questions in today's lecture, although it was like theoretical.
Yeah, sir.
Yeah, so in the next lecture, as I told you, we are going to learn about advanced JavaScript. Okay, and after that we will start with Angular. Okay, so yeah, if you want to brush up your things, I would recommend first go through basic JavaScript that's at least, because I cannot take a basic JavaScript now because it will unnecessarily extend your Angular lecture. So at least brush up your basic JavaScript so that I can take those advanced JavaScript topics. Okay, okay then, any questions or any doubts? No? Okay.
No, sir.
Okay, good. So do one thing, just give me your email ID so like you can paste it in a um, group itself, WhatsApp group. What I will do is I will create a classroom link for you. Okay. So I don't know you guys know it or not. So it's like I create a classroom project, okay, for every project or every class. And here I basically add people to this and you can see the entire uh, material wise. So I basically add all the materials here itself with video recordings and the data uh, as well with the code itself. So you will get all the material here itself. So you don't need, and even that will be like lecture wise. So so just give me your email IDs on WhatsApp. I will create the classroom and I will send you the invite. Okay. Okay, and I guess the next lecture will be on, I guess, next Tuesday. I don't know what Madam Sitaram has told you. So maybe next Tuesday. I'll inform that in the group itself. Okay. And yeah, one more thing. Next lecture onwards, I will need a interactive session. Okay. So if I ask any questions or anything, okay, please be interactive. Okay, don't be like शांत मत रहना. बिकॉज
Yes.
लाइक फिर ऐसा हो जाएगा कि मैं ही बड़बड़ बड़बड़ करते जा रहा हूँ, आपको समझ में आ रहा है कि नहीं मुझे नहीं पता चलेगा. तो अगर कोई क्वेश्चन से डाउट से पूछ लिया करो. एंड जितना डाउट्स आप पूछोगे ना उतना मैं ज़्यादा ओपन अप होऊंगा, उतना मैं ज़्यादा आपको नॉलेज देता रहूँगा. ओके. और जितना आप चुप रहोगे सो जितना आपको मैं दे सकता हूँ उतना ही दे पाऊंगा इसलिए. ठीक है, चलेगा. चलो then we'll stop here and we'll meet in the next lecture on next Tuesday.